Why do some people smile, even on their worst day, while others fall apart over the smallest problem? Why do two people go through the exact same storm, yet one drowns in it and the other learns to swim? The difference is not luck. It is not money. It is not even talent. The difference is how they use their mind. Today, you are going to learn 10 rules that can quietly rewire the way you see your whole life. Watch this until the very last rule, because Rule 10 is the one most people give up on too soon, and it's the one that changes everything. Welcome back to WisdomLoom English, the place where we grow our minds and our English together, one lesson at a time. Most people spend years searching for the secret to a happier life, in the wrong places. In a bigger paycheck, a different city, a relationship that finally feels easy. And sometimes those things help, a little, for a little while. But if you've ever noticed that even good changes in your life don't fix the restless feeling inside you, that's because the real problem was never really outside you in the first place. It was the lens you were using to look at everything. Change the lens, and suddenly the same ordinary day starts to look completely different. That's not a comforting slogan. It's something you can actually practice, starting today, with the 10 rules coming up next. Rule 1. Your mind is a mirror, not a window. Most people believe the world shapes their mood. They think, if my day is good, I feel good. If my day is bad, I feel bad. But it works the other way around. Your mind does not just receive the world. It decides how the world looks to you. Two people can lose the same job on the same morning. One says, my life is over. The other says, finally, space to build something better. Same event. Two completely different worlds. That is because the mind is not a window showing you reality exactly as it is. It is a mirror, reflecting back whatever you have trained it to see. If you keep telling yourself life is unfair, your mirror will show you unfairness everywhere, even where it doesn't exist. If you train it to look for chances, lessons, and small wins, that is exactly what it will start reflecting back to you. This is not wishful thinking. It is mental training, the same way you'd train a muscle. Every thought you repeat is a rep. Every excuse is a rep. Every I can handle this is also a rep. So ask yourself honestly, what have you been repeating in your mind lately? Because whatever you repeat, you eventually become. Here's the part most people miss. Thoughts don't just stay in your head. They leak into your face, your posture, your tone of voice, and eventually into the decisions you make. A person who constantly rehearses, I always fail, starts to walk into rooms a little smaller, speak a little quieter, and take fewer risks, without ever realizing why. Meanwhile, a person who quietly repeats, I can figure this out, starts to stand a little taller, ask more questions, and try one more time before quitting. Nobody sees the thought itself. Everyone sees the result of it. That's why changing your mind isn't a soft, unimportant task. It is the single most practical skill you can develop, because every other skill in your life is built on top of it. Confidence, discipline, patience, kindness, all of them start as a thought you decided to repeat until it became part of who you are. You don't need to believe this perfectly right away. You just need to start noticing your own repeated thoughts, the way you'd notice a song stuck in your head. Once you notice it, you already have a choice you didn't have before: to keep humming the same tune, or to slowly replace it with a better one. Rule 2. Stop fighting what you cannot change. There is a strange kind of exhaustion that comes from arguing with reality, being angry at the rain, at traffic, at people who will never apologize, at a past you cannot rewrite. This fight drains you, and changes nothing. Here is the shift positive thinkers make. They stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I actually do right now?" One question keeps you stuck in the storm. The other hands you an umbrella. Imagine your flight gets canceled. You could spend 3 hours complaining to the airline staff, or you could use those 3 hours to rebook, call ahead, and adjust your plan calmly. Same 3 hours, two very different outcomes. Every single day, you get a limited supply of mental energy. Spend it on things you control: your effort, your attitude, your next decision. And that energy multiplies. Spend it on things you can't control, and it evaporates into frustration. Stay with me, because this next part builds directly on this idea, and it might be the most practical habit in this whole video. Think about it like sorting two baskets every morning. One basket holds everything you can influence today: your effort, your words, your reactions, the way you treat people. The other basket holds everything you can't: other people's opinions, yesterday's mistakes, things that haven't happened yet. Most people dump 90% of their energy into the second basket and wonder why they feel exhausted by noon. Positive thinkers flip that ratio. They pour almost all of their attention into the first basket, because that's the only basket that actually moves their life forward. This doesn't mean you stop caring about things outside your control. It means you stop trying to manage them like they're your job. Care about the weather, but don't demand it change for you. Care about people's opinions, but don't let them steer your decisions. The moment you separate things to care about from things to control, a strange kind of peace shows up, because you finally stop fighting battles you were never going to win in the first place. Rule 3. Build a habit of noticing good things, on purpose. Our brains are naturally wired to notice danger and problems. It kept our ancestors alive. But that same wiring makes us overlook the good things that are sitting quietly in front of us. Gratitude is simply the practice of pointing your attention somewhere it doesn't naturally go. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about refusing to let the 95% that is fine get erased by the 5% that went wrong. Try this tonight. Before you sleep, name 3 specific things from today that were okay. Not amazing, just okay. Maybe your coffee was warm. Maybe a stranger held the door. Maybe you simply woke up breathing. Do this for 2 weeks, and something interesting happens. Your brain starts hunting for good moments automatically, the same way it once hunted for problems. That's not magic. That's repetition rewiring your default setting. There's a reason so many people who seem to have it all still feel empty, while some people with very little seem genuinely content. It isn't about how much good exists in someone's life. It's about how much of it they actually stop to notice. 2 people can own the exact same amount: a small home, a steady job, a handful of close friends, and one will describe their life as boring, while the other calls it blessed. The difference is attention, not circumstances. Gratitude also does something quietly powerful to your relationships. When you start noticing what people already do for you, instead of only what they haven't done yet, your tone toward them softens. You criticize less. You appreciate more. And people naturally want to be around someone who notices the good in them. So gratitude isn't just a private mood booster. It slowly makes your entire life, and everyone in it, feel warmer. Rule 4. Your circle sets your ceiling. Nobody grows in isolation. The 5 people you spend the most time with are quietly setting the emotional temperature of your life. If they complain constantly, criticize everyone, and expect the worst, some of that fog will settle on you too, without you even noticing. But if you spend time with people who are trying to grow, who celebrate your effort instead of your failures, that energy rubs off just as easily. This doesn't mean you cut off everyone who's ever had a bad day. It means you pay attention to patterns. Does this person leave you feeling lighter or heavier? Do they ask about your goals or only talk about their problems? You don't need a big circle. You need the right circle, even if for now, that circle is just you and one good book, one good channel, one good habit. And if you can't find those people yet, become the person you're looking for. Speak with more hope than the room around you. People are drawn to that kind of light, and slowly, your circle will start to match your energy. Think about how a single, tired, negative comment from someone close to you can ruin an entire afternoon, even if your day was going perfectly fine before that. Now flip it. Think about how one encouraging text message from the right person can lift your mood for hours. That's how much influence the people around you actually have, whether you notice it in the moment or not. This is why some of the strongest decisions you'll ever make have nothing to do with skill or intelligence. They're about who you choose to keep close and who you quietly create distance from. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's simply spending a little less time in group chats that only ever complain, and a little more time around people, videos, or communities that remind you what's possible. You are being responsible for the one mind you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. Rule 5. Change how you talk to yourself when no one is listening. Every person carries a quiet narrator in their head, commenting on everything they do. For some people, that narrator is a coach. For others, it's a critic that never stops. The problem is, we believe this inner voice more than we believe almost anyone else, simply because it never stops talking. If your inner voice constantly says, "You always mess this up," you will start acting like someone who always messes things up. But if you catch that voice and correct it, "I made a mistake and I'm learning from it," you start acting like someone who learns and moves forward. Try this simple test. Would you ever say the words you say to yourself, out loud, to your best friend? If the answer is no, then you have no right to say them to yourself either. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to someone you're trying to protect, because in a very real sense, that's exactly who you're talking to. Notice how specific your inner critic usually is. It rarely says something vague like, "You're not great." It says exact, cutting things. "You always ruin conversations." "You're the slow one in the room." "You'll never finish this." That precision is what makes it feel true, even when it isn't. So fight it with equal precision. Instead of a vague pep talk like, "Just be positive," replace the exact sentence your inner critic used with an equally specific, honest correction. "I stumbled on my words in that meeting" is a fact. "I always ruin conversations" is a story your fear invented and repeated until it sounded like truth. Learn to separate the fact from the story every single time and speak only the fact back to yourself. Over weeks, this small correction habit does something remarkable. It turns your inner voice from your harshest judge into your most reliable ally. The one voice in the room that never gives up on you, even when everyone else's opinion changes. Rule 6. Rehearse the version of you that succeeds. Top athletes, before they ever touch the field, close their eyes and play the entire game in their mind. The shot, the crowd, the win. This isn't a lucky ritual. It's mental rehearsal, and it works because your brain doesn't fully separate a vividly imagined action from a real one. When you clearly picture yourself handling a hard conversation calmly, or walking into an interview with steady confidence, you are quietly training your nervous system for that exact moment. This is different from empty daydreaming, because it's specific. Don't just imagine success in general. Imagine the exact words you'll say, the exact way you'll stand, the exact feeling in your chest when it goes well. Spend 2 minutes a day doing this, and you'll notice something strange. When the real moment arrives, part of you has already been there before, and that familiarity turns fear into readiness. There's an important difference between visualizing success and simply fantasizing about it, and it's worth being clear about. Fantasizing feels good in the moment, but often makes people less motivated, because the brain briefly enjoys the reward without doing any of the work to earn it. Real visualization is different. It includes the effort, not just the result. Picture not only the applause after the presentation, but the version of you rehearsing it calmly the night before. Picture not only passing the exam, but the version of you closing your phone and opening the textbook instead. This is what separates useful mental rehearsal from empty daydreaming. You are visualizing the process, not skipping straight to the reward. When you train your mind to picture the effort as clearly as the outcome, something shifts. The hard work stops feeling like an obstacle standing between you and success, and starts feeling like a scene you've already rehearsed and are simply now performing for real. Rule 7. Let hard moments teach you something before you let them define you. Every one of us will face a season that knocks us down. A failed exam, a broken relationship, a plan that collapses. The difference between people who stay stuck and people who move forward isn't that one group avoids pain. It's that one group asks a better question in the middle of it. Instead of, "Why does this always happen to me?" they ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That single question changes a wound into a lesson. Think about lifting weights. The soreness the next day isn't damage. It's growth signaling itself. Your mind works the same way. The discomfort of a hard season is often the exact resistance that's building your next level of strength. This doesn't mean you should thank every bad thing that happens. It means you refuse to let a hard chapter become the whole story. Every setback carries a small, hidden instruction manual. Your job is simply to read it instead of throwing it away in frustration. This shift takes practice, because our first instinct in pain is almost always to look for someone or something to blame. Ourselves, other people, bad timing, bad luck. Blame feels satisfying for about 5 minutes, and then it leaves you exactly where you started, except now you're also carrying resentment. Learning is slower and less satisfying in the moment, but it's the only response that actually leaves you better off than before the problem happened. Some of the strongest, calmest people you'll ever meet aren't strong because life was easy on them. They're strong because they collected more lessons from their hard seasons than most people do, and those lessons quietly stacked up into wisdom. So the next time something breaks, a plan, a relationship, a goal, resist the urge to simply survive it and move on. Sit with it long enough to ask what it's teaching you, because that one habit, repeated over years, is what turns an ordinary life into a genuinely wise one. Rule 8. Come back to right now, again and again. Most suffering doesn't happen in the present moment. It happens when we replay a painful past on a loop, or rehearse a frightening future that hasn't even arrived. The present moment, by itself, is almost always survivable. It's the mental time travel that makes it unbearable. Positive thinkers keep pulling their attention back to now, the actual sounds around them, the actual breath in their lungs, the actual task in front of their hands. This is what mindfulness really means. Not clearing your mind of every thought, but noticing when you've drifted into yesterday or tomorrow, and gently walking yourself back. Try this the next time worry creeps in. Name 5 things you can literally see right now, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it works because it forces your mind out of imagination and back into reality. And reality is usually far calmer than the story your mind was telling. Most people don't realize how much of their exhaustion isn't caused by what's actually happening, but by how many places their mind is standing in at once. Replaying a conversation from 3 days ago, worrying about a meeting 3 days from now, all while their body sits in a single quiet room. That mental splitting is genuinely tiring, even when nothing difficult is happening in the present at all. Presence works like gathering all those scattered pieces of yourself back into one place. It doesn't erase your problems, but it does mean you face them one at a time, in their actual size, instead of facing all of them at once, in your imagination, where they always look bigger than they really are. Even a single minute of true presence, really tasting your food, really listening to a friend, really feeling your feet on the ground, can lower the noise in your mind enough to think clearly again. Small, repeated moments like these are what quietly build a peaceful, positive mind over time. Rule 9. Release what you're only holding out of habit. Some things in life are meant to be carried for a while and then set down. An old argument, a version of yourself you've outgrown, a plan that no longer fits who you're becoming. But many of us keep gripping these things long after they've stopped serving us, simply because letting go feels like losing. In truth, holding on is usually the heavier weight. Picture carrying a suitcase full of stones through every new room of your life, every relationship, every opportunity, every fresh start. You drag the same weight in with you. Letting go doesn't mean the stone never mattered. It means you've decided it doesn't need to travel with you anymore. This includes forgiving people who never apologized, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to walk without that weight. Ask yourself honestly, what have you been carrying out of habit, not necessity? You are allowed to put it down. Letting go is often confused with forgetting, and that confusion is exactly what keeps people stuck. You don't have to forget what happened to release its weight. You can remember a painful chapter clearly and still decide it no longer gets to influence your mood, your trust, or your decisions today. Think of it less like deleting a memory and more like closing a tab you've had open for far too long. The information stays somewhere in your history, but it stops draining your energy in the background every single moment. This is especially true with forgiving yourself. Many people are quick to forgive others but refuse to forgive their own past mistakes, replaying old embarrassments and regrets for years. But you were doing the best you could with the understanding you had at that time. The version of you today, with more experience and more awareness, has no reason to keep punishing the version of you from back then. Free that person. They already paid enough. Rule 10. Decide, on purpose, that better days are still coming. This is the rule most people quietly abandon the moment things get hard. And it's exactly why I ask you to stay until the end. Believing that good things are coming isn't naive optimism. It's a decision you make even when the evidence isn't fully in yet. Think about any tree in winter. It looks lifeless, bare, almost given up. But underneath the surface, it's already preparing for spring. It just isn't visible yet. Your hardest seasons work the same way. The fact that you can't see the good ahead doesn't mean it isn't already forming underneath the surface of your life. This belief is not about ignoring your current pain. It's about refusing to let today's chapter write your final ending. Say it plainly, even if it feels strange at first. I am going to get through this, and something good is still ahead of me. Words repeated with belief slowly stop feeling like a wish and start feeling like a plan. This kind of belief changes behavior in ways that are easy to miss from the outside. Someone who genuinely believes better days are ahead keeps applying for the job after 3 rejections because they assume the 4th attempt might be the one that works. Someone who has quietly given up on that belief often stops trying after the first rejection, not because they're lazy, but because their mind has already decided the ending. Belief isn't just a feeling sitting quietly in the background. It's the reason people keep showing up, keep trying, keep taking the next small step even when there's no guarantee it will work. And here's the part that matters most. You don't need proof before you believe. If you wait for proof first, you'll wait through most of your life, because proof usually shows up after the belief, not before it. The belief has to come first. It has to be the seed you plant before you ever see the tree. So here's everything we covered today. Your mind reflects what you repeatedly feed it. Stop fighting what you cannot control and pour your energy into what you can. Train yourself to notice good things on purpose. Choose your circle carefully, because it shapes your ceiling. Speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you love. Rehearse the version of you that succeeds, in vivid detail. Let hard seasons teach you before you let them define you. Keep pulling yourself back to the present moment. Let go of what you're only holding out of habit, and decide, on purpose, that better days are still on their way, even before you can see them. None of these 10 rules require money, luck, or perfect circumstances. They only require one thing: a decision, made today, to think a little differently than you did yesterday. You don't have to master all 10 rules at once. Pick the one that spoke to you the loudest today, and practice just that one for the next 7 days. Notice how you feel. Notice how people respond to you differently. Notice how the same old problems start to feel a little more manageable. Then, when it feels natural, add the next rule, and the next. A positive mind isn't built in a single afternoon of motivation. It's built the same slow, quiet way a habit is built. One small repeated choice at a time, until one day you look back and realize you've become someone who no longer recognizes the person who felt stuck a year ago. If this resonated with you, join our community at WisdomLoom English. We explore these life-changing lessons every single week in simple, clear English anyone can follow. Hit subscribe so you never miss the next one. I'll see you in the next video.